Alright, apologies for the me jump scare. I wanted to try something a little different for this video. I have my phone here for the script. It probably goes without saying, but I love Yuri manga. Like, just look at my Deadlock hideout, bro. And I've talked about a couple Yuri doujinshi on this channel, and I even bought a couple anthologies when I was in Japan. For example, I don't know if I can show this one, but there will be the video of my review of the breakdown of the cover story of this anthology. Because while the Yuri I've talked about in the past is, well, erotica, this manga I'm talking about today is quite literally the opposite. In fact, it's doomed Yuri, and you can't really have Yuri without it being doomed. I'm just going to leave a trigger warning on screen just in case, and a spoiler warning for this manga. It's called The Summer You Were There, or Kimi to Tsuzuru Yutaka. I'm just gonna put the translation on screen at this point, man. What the fuck? And it's by the author Yuama, which, by the way, it feels like I shouldn't need to say this, but go support this author and go support any of the authors I talk about. Their Twitters will be linked in the description and also shown on screen in any of my videos. And this one can be found here, here, and here for X, Pixiv, and Xfolio. Anyway, the story follows Shizuku Hoshikawa, a girl who isolated herself from others, writing a novel that accidentally gets read by one of her classmates, Kaori Asaka. Asaka loves the story so much to find out that Hoshikawa wasn't planning on writing any more after it, not really having any idea what to write about. So Asakawa says to her, let's start going out, you and me, and you can write a love story about that. The setup is very similar to a lot of loner romances, something like My Dress Up Darling, just this time the twist is that the loner is also a girl. Except not like My Dress Up Darling, because holy shit, this manga broke me. When I was writing this script for this video, I don't think a manga has made me sit and think about my life choices and circumstances more than this one. And to not gas it up too much, because you should definitely go read it, we're just gonna talk about it. That's what my channel is about. Starting out, we get a glimpse of our main two characters and our protagonist talking about the but it cuts before anything else, going to the classroom with our main character writing something in class, finishing it before getting called on to read a paragraph. The girl next to her, who totally doesn't become important later, tells her what they're reading. But Hoshikawa Shizuku, our main character, is not good at dealing with this type of person, though it's not like she's good at dealing with any type of person. The girl from before invites Hoshikawa to eat with them, but she grabs her stuff and walks away, not apologizing to the girl, but to herself, saying it's better if she's alone, so she never has to hurt anyone again. Later, Hoshikawa is typing away on her computer because she finally finished her first and last novel, and after a long year, she goes to delete everything, heart beating at the thought of it. She goes to a website where she's been uploading the chapters and starts having a panic attack at all the comments left behind, wanting to end it properly. Once she finished the novel, she intended to delete it and also herself, but she can't just throw away the notebook pages she used for the draft anywhere. So she takes it with her to school the next day to throw it out in the trash there. And as she's about to throw it away, someone walks up, the girl who sits next to her, surprising her as she was on her way home. Asaka, the girl, sees the dropped pages and Hoshikawa starts panicking. Asaka starts picking up the pages, realizing what it is, and Hoshikawa is actively breaking down. And before anything else can happen, Asaka's friends call her away. As they part, she apologizes, saying that she'll be borrowing this, walking off to leave Hoshikawa stunned. Later that day, Hoshikawa is walking her dog, Shion, thinking this is the worst. Asaka Kaori, the girl who sits next to her, is the most popular girl in their class, being friends with everyone. Hoshikawa has no idea what's on her mind and has no clue what she's planning with that novel, which, by the way, is called Girls Lovers Suicide. This is important later. But just from picking up the pages, it's pretty obvious that it's a novel, and Asuka's probably gonna read it. Once she reads that depressing story, Asuka will. Just that thought sends Hoshikawa spiraling, only broken by a bark of Shion. Hoshikawa decides that the first thing tomorrow, she'll ask Asuka to return the novel, and just the thought of talking to her is enough for her to grab her shirt, wondering if she can do it. At school the next day, Hoshikawa got there early since she couldn't sleep, with Asuka showing up behind her. She works up the courage to talk to her, saying she has to do it before she can say anything else. Hoshikawa only says, though, that it's okay if she throws it away, referring to the novel. But Asuka could never throw something away like that. In fact, she wanted to tell Hoshikawa what she thought about it, thinking it was incredible. Everything about it was amazing. The choice of words being beautiful, and even though it's a sad story, it's relatable. Hoshikawa thinks she's confusing it with something else. It's a dark, immature novel that would make any reader die from cringe. But Asuka isn't mistaken and is sure of it, because that's how she felt reading her novel, saying it really touched her, especially that last scene where they hold hands and spend their final moments next to each other. And in this moment, her body heat felt through her hands, the lightly swollen eyes, a voice she's never heard in class, that those words she said, there's no deception to them at all. Because to Asuka, even if it was something she wanted to get rid of, it ended up being precious. So she shouldn't be so insecure about the novel that Asuka loved so much. Mandatory freeze frame for this amazing panel as Hoshikawa starts crying. The main reason she wrote that novel was for her own self-satisfaction and wasn't meant for anyone else's eyes. So she wanted it to disappear, like she had never written it. So why is it that she feels so happy? And she's glad it was Asuka who read it and was glad that she wrote it. She stops crying and Asuka grabs her hand harder, asking when the next one is and what it's going to be about. Asuka loved this one, but would like something with a happier ending, like a fluffy romance, and wants to read more of her stories. But Hoshikawa apologizes, saying she doesn't plan on writing anything else. Asuka, realizing that, asks her to not stop and to keep writing, her hands starting to tremble. Hoshikawa doesn't have anything else to write about, hoping that this will convince her. Asuka, hearing this, proposes that they start going out, and she can write a story about their own love, thus beginning the first and last summer they spent together. Unlike other mangas, there's not really conventional arcs this manga goes by, because there's just the overarching story, and that makes it seem like a typical romance. However, there seems to be a dark undertone hidden between them learning about each other and developing feelings for each other slowly. We learn that they start going out, but it's a sort of pretend love, a secret relationship, and since it's two girls, their families won't have a problem if they're in the same room. It'd make for a pretty good novel, which leads us to our characters, because throughout the entire story, we see both our main characters change drastically, both mentally and physically. Hoshikawa starts out as a loner character who doesn't want to talk to others for their sake and is standoffish with Asuka at the beginning, spending most of her days till then worrying about an incident that happened 5 years prior, where she was too honest when speaking her mind and always spoke her mind, unintentionally bullying one girl in her class. She spent the past 5 years worrying and decided to write down how she felt in her novel, Girls Lover Suicide, as a way to bring closure for herself, though that ended up getting hate online as well, because of its similarity to a real-world event that made it seem like Hoshikawa was making fun of this tragedy. Hoshikawa changes after developing feelings for Asuka, wanting to make amends with the girl she bullied, Ruri Ichinose, dwelling on what to say to her, ultimately writing an apology letter to hand in person. Hoshikawa becomes more willing to talk to others and make up for her past mistakes, the ones she so heavily dreaded, a complete opposite as what she started out as. Asuka starts out as a bubbly, cheery, and overall sociable person, which makes her story so much more hurtful. Again, spoilers for the manga, go read it right now. I bought the entire box set off eBay. Asuka holds this upbeat personality on the surface because she has a chronic sickness in her lungs that ultimately ends up taking her life at the end of the story. Because like most people, She doesn't want to die, especially at such a young age. She hides this side from Hoshikawa, not wanting to worry her. But one day, after Hoshikawa has a dreadful reunion with Ichinose and her friend, Asuka collapses, completely shocking Hoshikawa with her unable to do anything, leading her to change as she realizes the situation with Asuka. With the two able to understand each other more, their fake love starts blooming into a real one, and the vulnerability that comes with that. Many times in this manga, Asuka is scared of dying, using Hoshikawa's shoulder to cry on. Hoshikawa lets her feelings pour out onto Asuka in return. It's a very emotional tale of the two, and the sadness that comes later with the ending. Here's where I'm going to switch to using their first names, because that's what the manga did, and that's what the characters started calling each other. One of the big turning points is when Kaori ends up hospitalized and can never be released from the hospital. And for Shizuku, she wants closure on both their ends, ultimately writing a novel about the two's love for each other, excluding the terminal illness. Going through their time together, she ultimately decides this novel will become a love letter to Kaori, and the words she writes on the pages will reach her heart and beyond. She finishes the novel, but gets a call that Kaori's fallen unconscious and must go through surgery, with a 50-50 chance of waking up. Shizuku goes spiraling because of this news, hoping that Kaori will wake up, and changes the final words of the novel, waiting for the day that decides it all. Kaori thankfully wakes up, but is too weak to talk, so they text each other instead. The two have a tearful goodbye as Shizuku leaves to send Kaori the novel. Kaori reads the novel and replies with "me too," because the final words of the novel are "I love you." Shizuku falls asleep, woken up by her alarm clock and the news that Kaori had passed on. Shizuku ends up holding herself up, only getting dragged out to see Kaori at her family's house. And while there, Kaori's sister calls her off to hand her a letter and diary from Kaori. The diary starts on the first day of high school, with Kaori realizing the two people she looked up to ended up being the same person, with Kaori reading her manuscript and wanting to save Shizuku the same way Shizuku saved her. The letter contains Kaori's story, how she knew Shizuku before the incident 5 years back, and how she read Girl's Lover's Suicide online, and that saving her, and her true dream of becoming a heroine of a story. And Kaori wanted Shizuku to know that she had so much fun that summer, and that one thing she didn't tell her is that she wanted them to become a real couple. Kaori's final request is that Shizuku shouldn't come after her, and find happiness and live until she's a grandma, and Kaori would still be happy if she's remembered. The letter finishes off with Kaori saying, "I love you too," in shaky handwriting. And so our story climaxes, and Shizuku knows what she needs to do now. Time passes, and we see Shizuku going off to school, and her needing to face everyone. And one step at a time, she will become the person that Kaori looked up to prove that she was there. Because Shizuku wants to believe that in the end, the summer you were there was a happy story. Because holy fuck, this story couldn't get any sadder, and what a way to end off an absolute peak manga. But we're not done just yet, as the 6th volume has an after story one-shot. I actually don't want to damage the spines of this book. It shows Shizuku grown up a little more, seeing a photo of the two and saying she's heading off. Where to but the grave of Kaori. This manga is so fucked. Shizuku tells Kaori about her life and how her novel started selling good and how she decided to write novels for a living. But she chooses to keep The Summer You Were There for her own personal collection because it's the story of the two of them. She's even made some friends, but Kaori is still the only person she can love. And no matter what she does, she still looks for her in her shadow for the past 5 years. She's been told to move on, but never felt like she's been looking back because she loved Kaori, and thinking about her makes her joyous, and she's so happy for that. Therefore, she's there today to keep her promise to Kaori with a ring. Her moment gets cut off by Shio, Kaori's sister, saying that you can't leave an offering there, and it's already gotten late, but till that day, Shizuku's still living in the web of fate that Kaori weaved for her. So she's going to cherish her offerings while moving forward to the happiness Kaori hoped for. Saying goodbye to Kaori, Shizuku carries on living with the longing for her. With that, wrapping up The Summer You Were There. Although it was a very gloomy manga, it felt complete as it is. The afterstory shows that while Kaori is still gone, Shizuku still has that want for her. So much to propose in such a beautiful moment for her character and even Kaori's, even though her character is kind of not there. Each character, at least each main character, felt complete and had some way of feeling complete for themselves. Kaori gets to become a real couple with Shizuku, and Shizuku becomes the person that Kaori looked up to. Even the side characters, like the two old classmates and Kaori's sister, end up feeling complete by the end of the story. And that's not to take away from the story, as there were many points throughout the entire thing I was on the verge of tears or crying. I'm not afraid to admit either of those. There were so many ups and downs that I didn't talk about, both for brevity and my own sanity, that would flip-flop so much you would go from one moment kicking your feet in the air with glee to having to take a moment to comprehend what just happened. When I was reading this manga, it was late at night, but the story sucks you in so much that I had a hard time to put it down and go to sleep, only to wake up and finish reading it. And let me tell you, at the time I wrote this script, it was 4 full days after I finished the manga, and it was still sitting with me. I was having entire ass inner monologues in my car about my life and life choices after finishing it. It just goes to show that how even a stereotypical archetype like a loner character can feel overdone. When it's done right, it can completely transform the story into something amazing. This manga has meant so much to me that it's even invaded my dreams. I don't know what to put as a visual for this, so I'm sorry in advance for whatever I do. I recommend you check it out for yourselves as always, and go follow the author on Twitter or Pixiv or whatever, as they're currently working on 2 different stories. One being Yuri and the other adapting this Bang Dream anime. That's all I got. I'll see you in the next one. I'm coming in here to jump for like a post video thing. Even just flipping through and finishing this recording, I feel tears welling up. I won't even fucking lie. Like when I was trying to go to the after story, I flipped to this panel. Let me put it in the middle. I flipped to this page. I broke down crying on this page. Anyway, like the video, subscribe. Yeah. Bye.
Attack on Titan, Tokyo Ghoul. These hentai babes make me drool. Hasane Biku is great. She makes me masturbate. Fairy tale.